Hey everybody, Richard from Pollywog. Today we're going to be having a look at the 2019 Board of the Year, which is from Lost Mayhem. It's the Rad Ripper.
Rad Ripper, shaped by Matt Biolos.
Yeah, Biolos, without a doubt, you are one of the best shapers in the world, you know.
Yeah.
Been lucky enough to ride a lot of his boards. Yeah, you know, when this particular board was sort of called out as the Board of the Year last year, it's kind of crazy that it's already May. But yeah, the year started off with a bang, and yeah, kind of only managed to get one late, and yeah, thankfully before lockdown, managed to get this baby out, and yeah. I've had a handful of surfs on it, and yeah, the most amazing thing.
That board's a sort of direct spin-off of the Retro Ripper. So, what is the sort of differences between the two boards, and what is he taken from the Retro Ripper or adapted to make the Rad Ripper the board that it is?
I think he's taken, he's taken things like the rail line. The softer rail, the concaves, and kind of squashed it all down. You know?
Yeah, and the wider tail, obviously, also just to give it a bit more sort of planning surface area.
Yeah, exactly. So there's like a nice wider point up front here. So yeah, the paddling ability of this board, as I say, off the bat, is what blew me away, because yeah, super quick and easy to get into a wave.
Yeah. And
then when the speed on this thing, when you lean on it, yeah, like literally, I mean, I'm honest about boards, because I mean you have to be, because not every board goes for everybody.
No, for sure.
Within 5 waves on this board,
Yeah.
I don't know what everybody
it was just a board that felt good for you.
For sure. I mean, I talk to myself a lot in my mind when I'm surfing and about boards. And I mean, yeah, like after wave 5, I was like, okay, cool. I know clearly why this thing was Board of the Year.
Yeah.
Because it's insane on so many levels. I mean, it's got this little bump wing here.
I was going to say that little bump. I mean, it's not, you sort of don't see that in every board, but what does that sort of give?
Well, I find what it does is that this sort of wider kind of profile, it brings the tail in a lot quicker to sort of a more performance-based tail. Hard to see, but what they've done on the tail too is they've shaved a lot of the volume off the tail, so the tail is very thin.
Yeah.
So
maybe to compensate for the width, because the tail's so wide. If you've got a lot of foam in there, it's going to just make it float maybe a little too much.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this thing is it's 5'6". It's 19 and 1/8. I mean, gosh, a lot of oaks would be going 19. Are you kidding me? But it doesn't feel at all that way. I mean, it's 28 liters. So
yeah,
the thing that strikes me most about this board is that, like I say, just out of the gates, it's quick.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a little bit long in the tooth, like I'll be hitting the big 5.0 this year, and thankfully I'm before lockdown, still kind of surfing lots. And I mean, my kind of gauge of what a board's like is, when I surf locally, there's a lot of regular guys that we surf with over the years, and my best gauge on a board is if somebody asks me what I'm riding.
Yeah.
And the 5 or 6 surfs that I had on this thing, I had every time a handful of people just ask me, what the hell is that board you're riding? And I was like, why? And they were just like, Jesus, that thing just looks so fast and so good under your feet. And like, I mean, for me, without going into the technical details of a board, that's kind of the best feedback you could ever get.
Yeah,
to tell if it's
sure.
good or not.
So what sort of surfer and conditions is this board suitable to?
Well, I've ridden this board in a bunch of surfs that I've had on it. I've ridden it in predominantly beach breaks, sort of like left sort of left and right. So yeah, just anywhere from 2 foot to 4 foot. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those boards where like, oh man, I'm, just trying to mentally prepare and think about when we're going to get to surf again. I mean, this is what I worked out. The first board that I'm going to surf.
Yeah.
I really want to surf this board. It kept me in the water for an extra hour just because it was so fun. And it was just so nice to see when you put it in different places what it did and how it reacted. What was especially noticeable for me is when I did get to surf it in a running point way.
Yeah.
God, I can't begin to tell you how fast it is. It's amazing.
Yeah, okay, cool.
That's the last thing. I mean, a lot of us forget. We don't have to be Kelly Slater. We don't. You can be a very sort of average intermediate surfer, but if you can find a board that gives you speed, the help that is going to give you in your surfing journey is absolutely priceless, because it's the speed that allows you to do or try anything that you want to. So, and yeah, these boards, they're they're manufactured here locally in South Africa under license. All the cut files are done in the US. Via Matt, produced in the Bolt factory here in South Africa, a factory that's been producing boards for, gosh, well on 23 years now,
Wow, yeah.
Some of the staff that work there, gosh, man, I know those guys for the better part of 15 years. They used to work in some of the other factories back in the day.
So they know their way around the shaping bay.
100%. It's not only the shaping bay. So, I mean, Elton Fersman, who's a very, very recognized shaper, he's actually scrubbing these boards. So that's what's really important to note. Is that manufactured for license, they're produced locally with very strict sort of measures and quality controls in place.
Yeah. And obviously the finishing of the board is also so important. Like just aesthetically, number one, a lot of customers really just want to pick up a board and make sure that it looks like there's been a lot of care and thought that's gone into sort of finishing it and making sure that it's pretty. But obviously there's a lot of performance value in a good finish.
Well, without a doubt, and like obviously what's been really cool for us at Pollywog is we've kind of traded on the fact that customer is king. And whenever there's been issues with any of these boards, and if the customer has been unhappy or not too, like that is the cool thing about this brand, and where it's produced, there's no questions asked. They'll swap out the board and change it. And it's also important to know where the blanks are blown that these boards are made from. These blanks are produced also here locally in South Africa by Surf Blanks. Probably the oldest blank blowing, one of the oldest blank blowing businesses in South Africa. And man, I work closely with those guys directly. This blank itself, this board is not sprayed. This is a blue blank.
Oh, that's sick. Yeah.
Pigment is put into the blank, and funnily enough, I mean, we've offered this to our customers since kind of late last year. I don't think many guys have kind of picked up on it, but I mean, we'll give you a colored blank literally at no extra charge. There is a small surcharge on the blank for the pigment, obviously, but we kind of waive that. And I personally have tested these blanks for the last 12 months, and they wear incredibly well. It's amazing to have the pigment and the colored blank, because there's no sun damage, there's no fading. It's been very, very cool. And most importantly about these blanks is, so this board is obviously PU, but the wear and tear of these blanks is solid. I mean, we'll see in some of the other sort of Lost and Mayhem board reviews, you'll get to see boards that have been surfed really hard. And yeah, I've been super impressed with you know, the finishes, obviously what's underneath the glass, the wear and tear on it, and how they actually lasting, you know. It definitely gives you lifespan and legs, you know. I think which is important
when you're spending so much money on a board.
For sure, but you know, like, you know, people think that we're in the surf business and we always just want people to buy new boards. That's not necessarily the case. I mean, you know, if a board for me can last me 2.5 seasons, I'll surf it, especially if it's one of my favorite boards.
Yeah, for sure.
What actually happens with PU blanks and even EPS blanks is, just by nature and as they age, there comes a point where they eventually lose their spark and their you know, their liveliness. Like that's probably the best way to describe it, is that the blank, and it'll lose its memory, and it just passes a point of no return, and then it's definitely time to get a new board, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, man,
sweet.
As this thing, the Rad Ripper, man, you know, if you don't believe me, do yourself a favor, go online, look at all the other reviews. There's a very good reason.
There's a substantial amount of material and information available on that particular board.
Good, without a doubt. Like I say, you know, you don't have to believe me. You can go check out all the other stuff, but I'm happy to kind of relay to everybody that this thing is certainly a board to consider. Although it's a sort of a squashed down, smaller kind of version, and people are going to say, yeah, more happy waves. Like, dude, this thing is going to absolutely fly in pumping waves. There's absolutely no doubt.
Sick.
As you can see with this, you know, I've chosen just the thruster option. Again, these are the FCS2 AMs, the largest. And again, for me personally, I like the large fin, but you know, go.
Yeah, and that is available in 5 fins, so it can be ridden as a quad.
Hey, if you want it, we would be able to certainly do it in a 5 fin. But yeah, gosh, man, as a thruster, I'm completely blown away by the speed that this thing's got. So I don't believe that there's any reason to ride it.
To ride as a quad. Okay.
For sure.
All right, cool. Shot.
Well, that's it, you guys. The Rad Ripper, highly recommended. Get busy researching, man. This thing will change your life for sure.
There we go. Shot, Rich. Cheers.